Buddy, and welcome to the Endless Celts Podcast. I hope you're all keeping well who's watching along with ourselves tonight. I'm delighted to be joined by Anthony from the Jungle Gyms. How are you, buddy?
How are you doing, Steve? Not too bad yourself?
I'm doing well, mate. Doing well. Thanks for coming on. And also, a big welcome back to Ross McCall. How you doing, mate?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. Thanks for letting me bounce on this fine day.
It's been anytime, mate.
Yeah,
it's been a while.
It's been a beat.
It's been but we're here. We're ready to talk Celtic. And look, before we get into it, I just want to mention the Super Six and stuff. I don't have the up-to-date scoreboard, but just get involved with that again. Saturday, get your scores in before the kickoff times, and we'll be announcing the table again on Monday. But to get kind of stuck into it, Ross, I'll start with yourself. Celtic against Hibs. I mean, bit of a sticky patch there over the last couple of weeks. A bit of murmurs, bit of discontent, frustration at how we're playing. But I think all in all, as we always do, a brief summary of the game. I think we turned them over in a way.
We totally turned them over. Yeah, it was good to see a little bit of panache back in the side. It seems like somebody needed a proverbial kick up the behind, and it looks like maybe they did that with the boss yelling at them the previous week. So yeah, it was good to watch. It was good to see everybody. I thought was great. It was nice to see him have a start. Probably give Kyogo a little bit of a break and a bit of a run for his money, I think. Yeah, it was good. It's good football.
Yeah, it was good football. And although Celtic Park does feel a bit strange, Ross, but I'm sure we'll talk about that later in the podcast. And Alfie, what about yourself? I mean, a Wednesday night kickoff, usually the Champions League, but it was domestic action was in town. And I think, like Ross said, we had that kick up the arse that Rodgers gave them on Saturday.
Yeah, so it seemed like the halftime team talk on Saturday kind of really worked, and Wednesday night ended up being more of an entertaining game than any other Wednesday night so far this season, Champions League included. It was a much better game. I think we'll talk about it later on about the personnel that was in that squad that probably helped give us that wee kind of panache, as Ross says.
Yeah, I think as well. I think your camera's a wee bit behind, buddy, but we'll bear with it. But I think that for me anyway, what I was looking for was the reaction, Ross, and the kind of, as you said, that kick up the arse. And I know Callum McGregor took it thick that he was called soft in essence, you know what I mean? But we've seen a different side to him. The second half of the game last week, he scored. I mean, he took the game by the scruff of the neck against Hibs there as well. And I kind of want to touch upon just him a wee minute personally here and his importance to the team. And the way I think Rodgers has dealt with him, and we're not blind, we can see that he hasn't been his best throughout the whole season. A lot of the players are on the same boat. But what I think Rodgers has done brilliantly is we've been in mind games there. Like you're soft, and McGregor seems to be take that a wee bit personally, and he's ran with it. And he to be fair, he's dragged the team to 2 victories in a row.
Yeah, I mean, even against Hibs, he took a couple of digs, I think, and it looked like he was going for the bottom corner again. Look, I think like with any professional athlete, it does become a point. Age starts becoming a part of the game, but also if you are getting played out of position and you tend to go missing during games, there's no doubt that Callum McGregor is a phenomenal footballer and a great leader for Celtic. I think it's been an interesting couple of months. Like I said, it's been a while since I've been here. And it's been an interesting, slightly frustrating watch. And the likes of Callum, who are they're the cling-tos, they're the ones that we rely on for these big games to show how Celtic is supposed to play, and even on and off the park. And so when he goes missing, it does feel a little bit diluted. But what a cracker he scored the other week. And I think you're right. I think it was more like, I know a lot of the boys aren't on social media and they say that they stay clear of it. But, I mean, you'd have to be hiding in a cave not to kind of hear the murmurs that people are upset and maybe you're not playing to your full potential. So I think he wanted to, shut a few faces up. And so he went out there and did it. And I'm glad he's back.
100%. And Anthony, I mean, yourself and Callum McGregor, and it feels like a bit of an odd one when they're picking differences in his form, but every team, every player in the team is up for criticism when it's due. And I think this Callum McGregor, in my point of view, just looked laboured at points earlier on the season. And like what you said, Ross, there's been a strange season. I don't know what it is, I'm still not fully on board with it all. It's just a strange feeling. You all know what I'm like. But I mean, with Callum McGregor himself, and we talked about it on Wednesday as well in our group chats, but he rolled back the years. And I think what Rodgers done, moved him up a position, I think it was a masterstroke.
Well, I think we've all been waiting on that. I think we've all been waiting on pushing him further up again because he's been having this sitting back, holding back defensive midfield thing, which just doesn't suit his game for, us us amateurs out here watching. I do lean on the side of I'm a big Brendan fan, you know that, and I think he's a damn good coach, and I think he probably knows what he's doing. And sometimes we might be a little like get to it. So I'm glad that whatever he did, he switched up. So I think there's a few of the midfielders that are arguably really great players, but they don't really play well together. For me, like O'Reilly and Turnbull, I don't think are particularly, gelling together. It's one or the other. It's like bring on Turnbull, he scores a goal. You put on O'Reilly, he scores a goal. It's like, and I think that with Callum, I think there's a few players. I thought Iwata had a great game against Hibs, actually. And that's something that you look at and you go, huh, all right, that's an interesting balance. So I think, he's playing around. We all know we've got an overinflated squad. We know there's 1,000 players there, and we're trying to, figure out who's working. But like you, I think we just wish we'd get on with it and figure that out.
Yeah. I think we've got a, without pointing fingers here, an overinflated transfer budget, Ross, but we'll leave that to another discussion. And Anthony, yourself and Callum McGregor, do you think that position change suited him? Going up to the moving up one, as Rogers called it?
Yeah, 100%. It's actually really been quite annoying. It's one of the bigger things I think a lot of fans have had issues with this season, is that he has been sitting deeper. And it's something I've picked up on for years with our midfield kind of trio, even going back to when we had Brown and Beaton and even Malumbu and was it Neil Lennon's kind of first tenure. If we play two defensive midfielders, the game doesn't work for us properly, not in domestic football. And it's almost the same. I know a lot of tangent here, Ross, as well, but it's almost the same when we play Turnbull and O'Reilly. It's two very similar players, and they both do the same job, which means that somebody else is not doing the third job that Rodgers needs to do. And he's always talked about this in his Liverpool days, where he needs three players, one sitting deep, one doing the leg work up and down, and one being the kind of attacking creative player. And when you bring somebody like Iwata in, it allows Callum McGregor to go up and be that driving player between defence and midfield and into attack, and then lets O'Reilly do what he does best. And I think that's what we saw most with Callum McGregor on Wednesday night, those long shots. When's the last time we really saw him do that from that kind of position? Allowing somebody like Hitati, if he was back on form, or Iwata, where he's in now, he allows Callum McGregor to be that player that he always has been. And I'd much rather see that for the rest of the season than persist with a tandem of O'Reilly and Turnbull and then ask McGregor to sit too deep, because he's wasted. He's much better with that forward pass, that forward drive.
Yeah, totally agree. We'll come back on to Iwata later in the podcast, but I want to start with Ross, and he came in, and I thought the fits and starts we've seen of him, I think he's been brilliant this season. I think overall he has something 8 goals and 12 starts. Don't quote me on the stat. I've seen it on Twitter. Do you know what I mean? But I'm pretty sure it's similar to that.
Must be true.
Must be true. And his goal ratio per game is up there with the best forwards in the league, albeit coming on as a sub and things. But what I thought he brought to us was look, it's no comparison or anything. And before anyone jumps on me here, but like the Musa Dembele, the odds and Edward physicality that we didn't see in Kyogo. Now, again, it's not discounting what Kyogo brings to the team, but he was a focal point. And I think with him up top, you can kind of ferry your game. You can hit it long. He can hold it up. You can play intricate passing. He's good at linking up the play. And then also, Roger said, he can get in behind. So he offers you 3 different options up front. And his game, to me anyway, seems to be coming together. When he first came in, he was raw. He was just going everywhere. He was running about like a headless chicken. Jurgen Klinsmann came all the way from South Korea to Rugby Park to watch him against Kilmarnock. And he absolutely flopped that day because he was trying to make an impression so much. But what I've noticed is he's settled down. He's taken his chances. 2 goals, yes. One, Carter Vickers hit it off his leg, but he's going to claim it as any good striker would do. But what's your opinion on Owen, the minute in the team?
I sort of agree with a lot of what you're saying, and dare I say, I'll make a similar. Well, I know Giakoumakis, right? I really liked Giakoumakis. I thought he was a great substitute striker, and held up that play. And I'm not saying that O's close to him, and not, but it took Giakoumakis quite some time, if you remember, to actually start scoring goals. It took him a while. And I sort of see that in O a little bit. And I like his hold-up play. And he does have a little bit of aggression in him, which I like. That second goal that he scored against Hibs is phenomenal. The way he edges the defender off the ball. I mean, it's not like a superstar, top bin goal strike, but I mean the fact that he nudges him off the ball and the strength that he did to then tuck it around the keeper, it's a really good striker's goal. So I like him a lot, actually, and I sort of trust him. We've talked about this a lot. It's nice to be able to trust players. And when O comes on, I'm not like going, why are we taking Kyogo off? I understand there's a play. And I like them playing together also. I mean, I know that's, not
frowned upon.
Everyone says, yeah. But, no, I like him. I mean, I feel there's a lot of trust, and I think he's growing,
Well, what do you think's wrong with Kyogo then? Because he hasn't scored, 9 games, something like that. And I've seen people say that the style of play kind of eliminates him. And to a certain extent, I get what they mean, because when the balls get whipped into the box, I mean, we'll come on to O'Reilly's goal, for example, the header. Kyogo's not going to challenge there. He's dropping deep to get involved, where he should be in the box and being there like every good striker, but he's not. And his involvement with the team, I mean, he's getting 6 to 7 touches in a game. I know last season, but he was converting them touches into goals. He's just not in the right areas for me.
The two things I would say is, yes, last season he also went on, I think, a 7-8 game goal drought, and he still came out with 30 goals at the end of the season, or whatever that number was. So it doesn't concern me that he's not scoring. But yeah, I agree with you. From the games that I'm watching, being the couch manager, as I'm watching it, the amount of times I see that he's making the runs and the balls are not coming. I see him doing those brilliant little darty runs he does, and then all of a sudden we pass sideways, which drives me bananas. But I see that a lot. So sure, he hasn't been scoring, but I do think he's not getting fed it. I think he's not getting the team playing towards the runs that he's after. And I think if they took that gamble, and I don't know if that's the boss saying don't risk it, but to me those cutting passes that McGregor can do, Turnbull can do, O'Reilly can do, those are the ones that he gets on the end of. So I think he's going to be all right. I'm not fearing it.
Yeah, no, again, it's as you said, it's one of them things. I want the confidence to go back in him. Do you know what I mean? I like him when he's playing for the confidence. I want him to take his opportunities. But, I mean, Anthony, you look at Ross rightly said there, the second goal I thought was a brilliant bit of play. Cal McGregor found him with a fantastic pass, and then that hip kind of movement to get the defender out of the way I thought was fantastic. And then the composure, which I don't think, to be honest, he would have shown last season. I think he would have probably slashed at that, or maybe took another touch and the keeper had time to close him down, but he took it one-time finish. And for me anyway, it's great to see him play like that. And Ross, you brought up Jack Amakis, wasn't going to mention him tonight, but you're right in a way. It took him a while to get settled after the penalty kick miss against Livingston. People go, get him out, sell him in January. Then when Kyogo got injured, he took his form and he was fantastic till he left and went to the MLS. But where do you stand on Owen, his impact in the team at the minute?
I've got to agree with both of you, and I need to bring the comparison again to Jack Marcus and remind people that he was 26 when we signed him, and he only had that one really good season at VVV the year before. So, 24, 25, then he comes to us when he's 26. O's only 22. If we're going to compare the similarities to both of them, you have to remember that Giacomakis back in his early career was a bit of a slow burner and a slow starter as well. And then he found his place in the game, his strength, his composure. He had a team playing with him and into his style, and it worked for him. And it worked for him at Celtic as well. And it even worked for him at the MLS. I think he got quite a few goals last season as well. I think he's definitely grown into the team. I think the way we set up now is more in tune with O. As we said, with Edouard and Dembele being previous kind of examples of a stronger striker who likes to run with the ball compared to Kyogo. And you saw that with the second goal. He's been in front of the defender when the ball's been coming through, but he's almost kind of held off because he knows he needs to get that ball, turn the defender a little bit, and then make a bit of space for him. And he's done it all with composure and a stature of somebody who's well above his age in the game. So he's definitely coming on this season compared to last year. And I think there's much more to come from him. As we touch on Kyogo, though, I think we definitely are, and people used to slag me for this for the last couple of years, but I think we're definitely seeing the lack of service to him because we're not playing guys like Abada or Maeda who are much more driving down the wings and cutting balls in with a fierce kind of cross the face of goal ball, whereas now we're much more about the pass around the midfield, look for the open and slip somebody in, and that's not always best for Kyogo with these packed defences. We need a bit more of a counter-attacking drive sort of thing to kind of feed him in.
I think it's right. It's his style that's impacting it, but kind of quick fire to us both, Ross. For the next upcoming games, let's say we've got Kilmarnock and 2 or 3 after. Kyogo or O? Who you go with?
Kyogo.
Right, okay. Even O showing that form on Wednesday, we just drop him in the team for Kilmarnock.
I think also that the goals that he's been scoring, most of his goals have come as he's come on as a substitute, right? So most of his goals he's picking in. So what I'm saying is I've trust in him. It's not that I'm preferring Kyogo. I sort of think that O probably has more of an impact off the bench than Kyogo does.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when you bring Kyogo on sort of in 60 minutes, I was praying for him to get a goal the other night, but I was just like, it's not going to slide his way. And I tend to find that O comes on in those last 30 minutes and has more of an impact. So that would be my reasoning. It's not necessarily because, O's tucked in too and he doesn't deserve it. I think he's a great impact player.
Yeah, some players are born to be impact players, to be honest. But Anthony, where do you stand?
I think for now you still need to start with Kyogo as well. O's making a good shout for a start, but when we're at this busy period, I think you go with the strongest 11 that you can possibly get. You don't mix it around too much. You give him his half hour, 45 minutes when you can, and if he keeps proving himself at that point, getting a goal or two every time he comes on for that half hour, 40 minutes, then maybe come the new year we start introducing him as a starting striker. But I think just now you go through this period with your strongest 11 every time.
I think for me, like what San Fran Celtic here says, you can't drop O against a team like Kelly need his physicality. 100%. I think that O should be starting. I think we've seen Ange reward players on the back of taking their chances. O for me took his chance until he fucks up, so to speak, again. I don't think for me personally he should come out of the team, and that's no slighting Kyogo, but O for me is playing with confidence. He's playing like a striker. He's going to score goals and getting about people, be physical. And look, I know last season Kyogo took the curve Killy, and the season before that's 100%. I'm not doubting he could do it again and again and again.
Yeah, we haven't struggled really with the physicality really up front for a while. So
yeah, we haven't. But I think, Ross, it comes back to, like you said, though, the style of play is totally different. We're building up slower. It's giving teams opportunities to set in, pack the defence. And the only other option then is Palma or whoever's playing on the right, Yang, Tilio, Johnson's crossing the ball in. So I think in an essence, we need to take advantage of that while we can. And it's no slighting Kyogo. I just think for me is just the better striker. And Dion comes in here. O's starting Sunday. It would be disheartening to him just to stick him on the bench again, 100%. San Fran Celtic, we struggled against Kelly. Kelly's to be fair, one of our bogey teams. I hate that pitch, by the way. I know they're talking about ripping them up. I hope that happens because, it's the Shambles playing them 3G in the SPL. Pam, Kelly got me undermined 100%. For me, that's why I would choose O. And as always, Ross, you would notice especially, I'm in the minority. But you know what? I like it. It's all good. Another player I want to touch upon who had another fantastic game of foot, Cal McGregor again, brought this guy's game on the new level. Ross was Matt O'Reilly. Making late runs into the box. Palma with a lovely whip ball like he can do any day of the week. Bang, bullet header. And for me, this guy's he's scary good. Like, and for the SPL, he's too good. That for European level, he's still finding his feet. He's getting his first international call up for Denmark. He's already had the first cap, and he's got that under his cap as well. The ceiling for him. I know we said a lot about Atate and we said about Iwata, but O'Reilly he's so cultured. He's elegant. He can move well. He's just a Rolls Royce of a player, and he took his goal really well.
It's all those Pilates classes, It's like,
yeah, do you do Pilates? You must do Pilates over in Hollywood. Come on.
Oh, maybe come over and slap you. Come
on. But what do you think of O'Reilly?
I love him. I mean, I think he's great. I mean, look, he's one of those players. I think he's still got a little bit to learn. He is out of his depth in Europe, and I think we go into Europe going, he's on fire, and he gets, run around. So he's not European level, but I love his story as well. I just love the fact of where he came from, the way he's loving the club. It seems like he's loving the way of Celtic, and he's phenomenal. When he's on, he's on. And we need, unfortunately, I feel this way with a few of our team. If they were all on all the time, we'd be a force. The problem is that's the difference is, there's 10%, 20% of the time, even our guys that we like Hatate, you brought him up. I think we really miss him, but there are days when I watch him and I'm so frustrated. He gives the ball away, or he's just like, it's just not quite there. And then he plays another blinder. And I feel O'Reilly's like that. He can have an absolute blinder, and then he can have an absolute stinker. And I'm like, I just wish that balance was just there. And I guess maybe that's the difference between the real, elite athletes, and I'm sure they'll get there. But it is a frustration that I have with our team. I'm just like, if we show up and if we play our full game, we're really hard to beat.
Do you think O'Reilly's our best midfield player?
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably. Yeah.
I think for me, Rogers has took him. And look, again, Anthony, people go back to him hitting Postecoglou, but don't think he did. It's different styles of management. I think works for different people. Yes, and Rogers clearly puts the arm around him, and Matt O'Reilly's took that. I think he's 9 goals or something in all competitions. And for me, look,
his passing game is phenomenal too. Like when he's
sensational.
It's like, it really suits us.
Yeah, and I think when he runs onto the ball, like he said before in the interview, he could just see the pitch open up and he could pick the right thing, Anthony. And 9 times out of 10, it comes off. And I always go back to when Stuart Armstrong was with us. I loved him. Mm-hmm. I love Stuart Armstrong at our club, and I thought he could do the exact same things. But for me, Matt O'Reilly, he's filling that void. He's like the number 8, number 10 kind of hybrid player that Rogers likes to have. And like you said at the start, players that do different jobs. I think O'Reilly can do probably them all. If we're honest, he could do the sitting position, he could do up and down or play the 10 role. And I just think he's been really effective. Obviously missing a Tate's been a big miss, but I think O'Reilly's he's filled that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I really enjoy watching him, and I feel comfortable that he's on a team sheet.
Yeah, he's apart from Callum McGregor, obviously, who's the captain and should be within reason, the number 1 name on the sheet all the time. Matt O'Reilly's up there. He has to be one of the first that goes down on the team sheet, because why else would you leave him out? Yeah. It's a nice comparison you made though. Stuart Armstrong. He really is like if you could take the intelligence and the kind of football mind of Stuart Armstrong and the technical craftsman wizardry of Tom Roddick, merge them together, you'd get a Matt O'Reilly out of him. And you say he can do the kind of 8 and the 10, but he's technically really gifted as well. The only thing he lacks, which is probably the same for Palma, is just that little bit of burst of speed, that a little bit of pace that would probably just take him up an extra level. But it's not all just about that. I mean, you look at other guys in world football who don't have the greatest of pace. But yeah, Matt O'Reilly's a phenomenal player. We're kind of happy and lucky to have him just now, and he won't stay here forever.
Well, I think it goes both. I think for him, he also knows the opportunity he's been handed with Celtic, and he's very vocal about that. And so I think that there's a real sense of companionship with the team. So
totally, Ross. There's
him, and we're gonna, maybe he'll go up to the the English league at some point. But I think he's very, very happy being in the Celtic colour.
He comes across as a guy, and I know we've always been stung in the past by managers and players who have left us in due course, but he does come across as a guy who's got a plan, and he's not finished at Celtic yet, and that doesn't mean he's going to be here for 3, 4, 5 years, but I think he knows fine well that he's still developing, especially under Brendan Rodgers. He's got work to be done for himself, and when he's ready, he'll move on to Celtic to go up a level in his career. I don't think he's the sort of guy who thinks, I'm going to leave to go back down to England and into the EPL to play for, an Everton or Stoke or any mid-table yo-yo kind of team. I think he's Manchester United, yeah. I think he's going to be very intelligent about what his next move is. If he can get into English football and go kind of European challenging, European kind of spots, the top 8, he'll take that position. But I don't think he'll go for a kind of mid-table has-been kind of club.
No, 100%. And like you said, Ross, the story's fantastic. Leaving Fulham, training in a public park, getting a chance at MK Dons, thriving in League One and coming to us and taking this game to a new level. But I want to come to you with a question Sam Fran Celtic's put in, Ross. If a big offer comes in January for Matt O'Reilly, do we trust the board?
No.
What do you think, Ross?
They're slagging you right now. Do I trust the board to not sell him?
I think that's what Sam Fran's meaning.
I think, and again, this is just there's only opinions. I think Brendan Rodgers would make damn sure he's not sold in January.
Yeah, I can't see it happening in January. And like we said, players like him, I don't think stay forever. We've seen that before. And it's a bit of a bad thing to say, but a big transfer fee. I'm of the opinion he'll actually break our transfer income fee. I think we'll be getting the 30 million plus for him. And in my opinion, when he does leave the club, which would be a fantastic bit of money for the club if they invest it. But another player, Ross, that everyone's talking about, and Anthony brought him up, Palma. Palma frustrates the absolute life clean out of me, right? And I'll tell you why, right? Maybe you can help me. For me, he produced an assist.
You and I live in such different brains. I love it.
Oh, we're gonna talk about it. For me, Palma produced a fantastic assist for O'Reilly's header and the penalty, which he had to redeem himself for that pathetic one he did the other week. It was a good goal. But what annoys me, right, is the constant having the ball on the left, cutting back in. It's so readable, and to be honest, 9 times out of 10, the fullback does get the ball. When he takes the player on the outside, like he did for O'Reilly, he got that opportunity to cross it, and he did a fantastic cross, but he doesn't do that enough, in my opinion. And this is probably sounding so contradictory because he's got so many assists or whatever, but there's so much, the only reason why I'm saying it, because there's so much potential in him, I think. I think he can...
Just want more from him.
I want more from him, 100%. It just frustrates me because I think he's so readable in the game. And even Roger said it. He had to speak to him about not coming back all the time. He had a good game against Hibs, but do you get what I mean? You said I live in a different brain from you. I mean, to be fair, I honestly do. But what's your opinion on Palma at the minute?
I was like, who's he going to talk about? Yeah, I agree with what you're saying. I do agree with what you're saying, and I think the cross against the Hibs game was really unlike him. You know, the fact that he went on the outside and I think with his left put it over. I think he's a tasty player, and I agree there's more potential there. But out of all the new people that we brought in, I would say Palmer is the one that has stuck out to me that goes, you know, he's decent. Like again, he's one. If he shows up on the sheet, I'm pleased. I'm like, okay, we've got somebody on the, you know. I do agree with you. I mean, he lacks a little bit of pace. He's got finesse. It's sort of what I was saying earlier. There are games he plays that he's outstanding in. And then there's a couple of games he goes missing. And you're like, where's the consistency? You know? And I guess a part of my like for him is because who else you put there? Now.
That's very true, actually.
You know, and right now, you know, and again, it's not dissing on any of the lads, but, you know, I have heart palpitations when I see some of the names going on that sheet, you know, and I'm like, didn't we do this in 2017? Like, what's happening?
Are you talking about Michael Johnson by any chance?
Possibly. But what I will say is he does also prove me wrong. I thought he was very good last week. I thought he was all right. And he shows moments of magic, absolute magic, but it's just the final ball for him. Just, you know, he'll take on 2 players, try and take on the third, and he gets done. Takes on 2 players, takes a shot, hits the corner post. You know, it's like that's my. So I say, who else goes there? And so for me, I think Palmer just has a bit of skill. He has a bit of tenacity about him. He's got a bit of hunger and a bit of drive. So do I agree with what you're saying? Yes. Do I like him more than you? Yeah.
No, I like him, but he does frustrates me. Every time I see him get the ball, Anthony, come into yourself, right? Like what Ross said, he does some things like it's magic. The long range goals he can hit, the free kick he hit against Hibs nearly went in. He can do all them things so well. Do you know what I mean? But it's for me piecing that all together to have a game full of 90 minutes where you're going, wow, he's on it. Like we look at Jota, right? Last season, he had game after game like that. Yeah, he had bad games in between that, but he was overall a fantastic addition to our team. Again, it's strange for you to say, Palma doesn't excite me, if you understand what I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
Like Ross, I kind of get where you're coming from, but I'm going to say that I probably like Palma more than you do at this stage. I'm going to bring it back to what I said earlier.
It's a common theme over here, mate. Don't worry.
I'm going to bring it back to what I was saying earlier. See if he had a bit of pace. Do you think he'd be able to take that man on a bit more? As you say, he looks like he tries to cut it back. And would that then excite you more? And then would that make him a better player? Now, if it did, I don't think he'd be at Celtic. I think the fact he doesn't have that pace means he's at Celtic just now, because otherwise he's such an intelligent footballer. He's very, very gifted. You look at the 2 assists that he got on Wednesday night. One was a right-footed corner, outswinger, comes down, obviously Carter Vickers onto O's leg, and then it goes. And for Matt O'Reilly, he's on the other side, and it's a left-footed swinger. He's gifted with both feet. You don't often find that with players who are attacking that are that gifted that can just do it naturally with both feet. You know, we can all think about Luka Moravcik back in the day, was much like the same as Nakamura. He's a really talented footballer, but if he had that extra bit of pace that would really excite somebody like Stephen here, then he wouldn't be at Celtic, mate.
Do you know who excites me more, Anthony? Big Yang. He excites me more.
Oh, he did.
Yang. He's a good player. He'll come good, lads. You know he will. Look at my prediction about Burnaby being number 1 by Christmas. That's happening. 100%.
Dude,
he's going
to. I said it all last season. Burnaby was going to be a fantastic player, and he failed me every single time. So same with Mikey Johnson. Going to have to talk about him. Guys like Burnaby and Mikey Johnson, they've had so many chances, and every time they get these couple of games, you're like, right, this is it, guys. Come on, let's do your thing. Show us what you've got, and there's just nothing else comes from them. And who else do we have? Ross on the left wing, because some of the names you see, you kind of like thinking, fuck, I'd rather have Palma there. And as somebody in the comments said, let's get a Bada back and on the right side. I think we're looking at a very, very potentially potent attacking 3, and the likes of Kyle going in there.
The likes of Abada and Maeda. I mean, that's been a huge loss for us.
Yeah.
You know? And I think that we're also very spoilt with Jota. And you know, we're all looking for that replacement. And, you know, Jota is really hard to come by. And so I think, you know, as good as Palmer is, he ain't Jota. And I think that's a little bit of the hangover that some of us have, I think.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I mean, ask one quick question then, guys. Just on Palma, and let's make it really, really quick. He's been in the door, 4 months? Let's call it 4 months. Does he deserve the number 7 shirt?
No.
Is he living up to the potential of the number 7?
No.
Fair.
It's all about you.
No, I think he's one of the most exciting in a long time, but he's definitely got still a lot to prove.
Listen, he got that number 7 very, very early. You know,
he did.
Without having proven it. I liked that they gave the 7 to him, and that sort of made me go, okay, this will be interesting. I've got a feeling he's going to come really good.
Yeah, I think he will.
Yeah. The feeling in me is mutual, by the way, but I can see there's a whole lot more that needs to be coming from him. Like, I mean, every player on our team, as you said, Ross, when they're on it, the question is when they're all on it, and I think that's the big one. But talking about transfers a wee second here, we spoke about the strikers at the start of the podcast. Hyeon-gyu, them options, Ross. There's a big rumour this week going around. The Celtic are apparently interested in Bojan Miovski of Aberdeen, and the fee is going to break the record transfer fee for a player in Scotland. Obviously, 4.4 million was Scott Brown. That was 16 years ago now. Do you think he'd be a good addition to the team?
I think he'd be a bench player. You know,
it's not worth
that's
it,
Ross. That's it. Why break that record? Why spend 4.5, 5 million, £6 million on him when he's going to be a bench player?
Well, I think the reason is probably slightly obvious in the sense of, you know, if we have him, no one else has. And I think
if we're thinking about the other mob across the city, then they can't.
No, I'm not even thinking about them. I mean, think about Aberdeen. It's like, you know, there is something that's probably slightly unfair to a lot of other SPL teams is, you know, the 2 big boys come in and they buy all the best players. You know, it doesn't always happen, but it certainly has happened. And so for me, when I look at that, I go, yeah, he's not replacing anybody, but maybe he's becoming a bench player that becomes our 70th minute sub. And, you know, if we do go 2 up front, I mean, he can score goals, you know.
I think that. Go ahead, Anthony.
No, I was just going to say, I can see that exactly being the kind of player that he is, because I don't think he's going to replace Kyogo. They're completely different players, of course. But if we're looking at coming onto his game this season, are we really going to push back in his development in favour of Mirovski? At that price point, you kind of have to. But at that price point, is he worth being potentially a third choice? Not for me. And I'm always one for berating the board for all the projects and the £1, £2, £3 million signings that never go anywhere and all the useless money we waste. But it almost feels like we're about to splash a bit of money on somebody who actually would be third choice, as opposed to splash that money on somebody who's gonna take over from Kyogo. I'd rather see 5-6 million spent on a proper replacement, not a backup.
Yeah, and I think that's the issue for me. I've seen a lot of people online say this is the market. Now we have to spend these fees even for backup players, but we know that's not true. We could buy a backup striker for £2 to £3 million, no problem. And the issue with me is Bojan Miovski, like you said, Ross, domestic level, he scores goals. The Conference League for Aberdeen, he's been quite good. And I actually prefer Duke, his striking partner last season, but he's fell off the side of a cliff in terms of his form and what he's producing in that Aberdeen team, which is quite a shame, to be honest. I thought he was going to come on leaps and bounds. But Miovski, I agree with you. He's a bench player at best. He's not coming in for me to take over from Kyogo or even O to that matter. And it's like Willie on the podcast made a great point on Twitter. If you put O in that Aberdeen team, he'd be just like Miovski. Do you know what I mean? So you're not really getting a difference of a player there. You're probably getting two similar players in Kyogo, who's a different one. And I just don't think for me that makes sense. But kind of quick fire again, Ross. Would you sign him? Yes or no?
Yeah, I would love a third striker that's reliable, but it'd be I don't think he would come. And I guess we're now talking about the money. Do you sign him, for $5 million? I mean, we've got the money.
But should that not be spent? No, I mean, if you're spending $5 million, you're expecting someone to come in like a Yada, Carter Vickers, them types of players, not a Miovski from Aberdeen, surely.
No, I mean, I'm not all over it. I'm not like this has to happen. Oh my God, let's go get him. I mean, would I like a third striker that was decent, and not, somebody who's like, 5 levels down? Sure. But yeah, if we're talking semantics and we're talking about the money, I mean, is it worth it? Probably not.
No, I don't think so either. Anthony, what about yourself?
I think Ross answers that question much in the way that Brendan Rodgers answers the transfer policy question with the board. Does he have final say? Well, kinda. I would take an extra striker. It doesn't have to be this one. Yeah, I wouldn't spend that money on. I think he's a good player. I think he's very talented at the level that he's at. You look at guys like, this is going to sound really harsh. Liam Scales done really great at Aberdeen, and he found his level, and he's having a really good spell just now. But Liam Scales is not the player we need if we have to go up a level. He's great at what he's doing. He's doing fantastic this season, and all respect and credit to Liam Scales. But he's not the player who's going to take us up to the true level of Champions League football, where we're actually going to compete successfully. Mirovski's, for me, is probably in the same boat. Aberdeen level, brilliant. Enjoy it while you can up in Aberdeen. Not for me at Celtic, not at that price. Who's the defender that they had a couple of years ago that we tried to sign and they wanted £10 million for him?
Scott McKenna.
Yeah. Was he worth £10 million? Not a fucking chance. Is Mirovski worth 5? Nah, not for me.
Ross, are you going to say something there?
No, that was it. I was sort of agreeing with you, but yeah, for the money, no, it's pointless. He doesn't. It's not somebody that I wake up going, "Oh my God, we've got to have him." He's not even like a like a Lee Griffiths type striker when he was hanging in. You're like, "Oh, I'll take Lee." You know what I mean? It's not that for me. I read about it. Cool. But yeah, it doesn't replace any of our strikers.
And to be fair, it's probably pie in the sky. We know the paper it originated from, so you can't really believe anything they actually say. But to tap back into the game, Anthony, I mean, Iwata made a start, a rare appearance, and Rodgers actually confirmed he wanted to start him earlier in games, but he was injured and injury problems took a play on that. But we spoke about McGregor kind of rolling back the years at the start of the podcast there. What I thought Iwata done really well. He came in, he looks like a proper number 6. He can cover the ground quickly. He gets in about it. He breaks up the play and plays a simple 5-yard pass to keep the play moving. And what I was thinking to myself, is he the kind of missing link, so to speak, the midfield free that they're trying out Home, they're trying out Bernardo, they're trying to bring back Turnbull. But is the answer Iwata, O'Reilly and McGregor?
Whilst Hatate's out of the game or off form, yes. 100%. He reminds me a bit of, was it Sorrow that we had a couple of years ago, and he looked really good, very kind of dogged, in the face, breaking up the game, but he was far too chaotic. He kind of reminds me a little bit of him, but with the sensibility of Hatate and even Callum McGregor himself. He's a lot more assured on the ball. He knows what he's doing, he reads the game really well, and he allows the other two midfielders to move up and do their job. Yes, 100% locking, 100%.
That's my grounder.
Nice. He knows what he's talking about then.
He does know what he's talking about. We often have debates. But, I mean, I like Iwata. Last season, Rossi came in at centre-half and he was kind of pigeonholed to being a problem there, and he played right back in pre-season. Actually thought he'd done quite well when he was deputising for Johnson when he was injured. But what you said at the start was the kind of the difference that was seen in McGregor onto O'Reilly. And if you bring that back, I think the key to me in the middle was Iwata. He was calm under the pressure. He just played the simple pass, and he's quick. He's dynamic. And he's quite stocky for a smaller type player as well. I mean, he gets in about it. And we've all cried out for this physical midfielder. Believe me, I still think we need one 110%. But just while we get to the January transfer window and Rodgers does what he does, I think Iwata's a great bit of thing to put him in while Hatate's injured.
I agree. I think I actually think he's a great player. And somebody else just mentioned it, but it's so true. It was, he was Player of the Year over in Japan. Was it Japan? Mm-hmm. And so, of course, you've got a baller there, and that was probably a product of the Ange days, and him coming over. I think he's tasty. I'd like to see more of him. I would definitely like to be happy to sort of see him in the first 11.
Yeah, he definitely offers something different than that number 6 position. But moving on to the defence, Ross Carter-Vickers come off injured. Well, suspected injury at half-time. Rodgers said he's okay. It was just a precaution for his hamstring. But a player who came in was Nat Phillips. Now, that's mentioned this, right? Naraki, nowhere to be seen. Larga Bielka, nowhere to be seen. Kobayashi is getting sold. Stephen Welsh, again, coming back from an injury. But when Nat Phillips came in, he was meant to be the saviour at centre-half, the emergency load signing for Liverpool, the guy who comes in under pressure, he does well. But I seen someone say online, he's like a Shane Duffy 2.0. He does not look at all comfortable. Maybe again a style of play. But watching him against Hibs, I mean, Hyeon-gyu, their striker, had him on the ropes at points in that match in the second half, just running at him. He was falling over his feet. I think Hyeon hit the post from a tight angle when he missed it. It could have been a penalty kick as well when Nat Phillips put his foot out. And he just looks so lethargic, clumsy. And Liverpool put out a tweet the other day. No, it was last year. Someone retweeted it. It was like 62 seconds of Nat Phillips being Nat Phillips. And all it was him headering the ball away. And I think for me, if you look at that, Ross, it says he's not good with his feet. And if you're coming to January, would he be someone you'd be happy to say cheerio to back to Anfield?
Yeah, and I think that was part of the deal. I mean, I think the Shane Duffy comparison is a little harsh.
It wasn't me.
Get it? Listen, again, it was a tasty signing at that point where we had a bunch of injuries, right? So we had no centre backs. It was the issue, right? Carter Vickers was still out, and so we hadn't unearthed the scales yet. So it was like we needed emergency, bring him in. And when you bring in a player from a high level club, all right, he wasn't playing all the time down at Liverpool, but it's he's coming from a decent pedigree. You're expecting big things. What I will say is, I'm sure his head's been all over the place. He is brought in. He has one game, and then he's benched again. And I think what you're saying at Larga Bielka and Narosky, again, those two guys, when they first came in, there was a bit of excitement, and then Narosky got injured, right? And Larga Bielka too. And I think that was a whole panic stations. But Rodgers alluded to something about training, and you sort of go, oh, he's lit a fire. He's saying these guys are not showing up in training. So, you can't drop Scales right now. I agree with you, but I don't think he's our player that will take us to any next level. But I think he's been solid enough. Carter Vickers is just a mainstay. He's even off his normal. So is Alistair Johnson this year. But the Hibs game, they sort of came back into it a little, I felt. Look, we've got an overabundance of centre backs. Do we let Phillips go in January? I think that was always the plan. I think that was the talk of the, unless he was going to come up and just absolutely set the place ablaze. I think it was always just a little, stopgap, come and help us. We're shy on centre back.
Yeah, I mean, see if we go back there, Ross, right? Let's be a bit harsh here. Like my favourite thing to do, actually. We look at our centre halves apart from Vickers, and we've seen kind of the defence again go to pot when he come off with the kind of organisation and things like that. Are any of our centre halves, apart from Carter Vickers, from what we've seen, good enough? Even the new signings?
I think it's something Celtic have struggled with for years, off and on. It's like we have had some solid defenders at certain points, but my memory, if it serves correctly, for years we've always been like, it's just not quite there. It's not. We just don't have the solid back four that we need. So, are they good enough? I thought Narowski looked tasty when he started. I thought he was interesting, and I think given a run of games, he would be all right. Lagerbielke just seems like a 12-year-old to me. I can't get over it. I mean, he's a big boy, but I mean, he looks so young. I'm like, he's a professional footballer. But again, I thought he was great up until he got his red ticket in our first Champions League game, and that sort of soiled it a little bit for a lot of us, I think. Are they good enough? I think there's possibility. I think a run again, Roski could be a player. But I felt that even like Starfelt was good, but there were times Starfelt was a bomb scare. You know what I mean? There were times where I was like, and I think Carter Vickers has been like the only one recently where I've in Carter we trust. I've put that in, So do I think after a run of games they've got something? Yeah. But maybe it's
going to take a miracle. Like you mentioned skills there, Anthony, before in terms of the next level and stuff like that. But you can't drop him. And the only thing concerning for me is speaking about Nat Phillips and his impact on the team's been non-existent. And you look at the bench; it's never really changed. Like Narowski and Lagerbielke aren't getting a look in. No. And it could be the application, like you said, Ross, in training, which Rogers has actually alluded to. But Anthony, you look at Phillips, right? I think he is going back in January, if we're honest. Lagerbielke was Swedish Player of the Year, I believe. He's been in the Swedish national team. He scored a goal, I think, in one of his first appearances. And then the Rocky's been back from injury for basically a month and a half and not got looking. So what does that say? Is their application not good enough? Are they going to be shipped out like Kobayashi, or what's happening? Do you think, in your opinion?
I actually forgot that we even had Kobayashi, to be fair. That's how far down the line he is. I'm with you guys, especially thinking about Phillips in January. He has to be going back down to Liverpool. The guy only played 80-odd games. I think it was 88 games before he came to us. And I can see why, at the age of 26 as well, he's played 88 professional games. You can see why. He's not that great, really. And we even signed him as an injured player at the time. It really was a weird emergency signing. He's fulfilled what he needs to be, but he has to go on in January. We need to figure out what our main force defenders are. Obviously, Carter Vickers. Scales is making a good shout for himself, and you need to figure out.
Would you take Scales out at the first time of asking? Would you take him out at the first time of asking if he had a couple of bad games?
If you asked me that question 6 weeks ago, I would have said yes. But today I have to say no. I think it would be really harsh to drop Scales. I think he definitely reads the game well. The fact that we are out of European football after Christmas now, one game to go, and we can't do fuck all about it now. It would be really harsh to drop Scales. He deserves to stay in until he really doesn't deserve to be in the team anymore. But I will go back to what I said earlier, that he's not the player that's going to take us up the level, and we need to figure that out. Is it Lagerbielke? Is it Narowski? I don't know. We've not seen enough of them yet. Although, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, did Lagerbielke and Scales not go on 3 or 4 games and have a solid partnership at the back at the start of the season? So there must be something in Lagerbielke. Yeah, there has to be something with Lagerbielke, Player of the Year in Sweden and whatnot. It does look like a lazy signing from Celtic, with the whole staff out going out and the same agent presents you the next Swedish defender. So it looks lazy, but there's a player there, surely, especially for his age. So I'm all for working with Lagerbielke and Narowski from now till May, June time. But we need to figure out what is the partnership going into next season, because we need that pinned down as soon as possible. We need that pinned down now, because we need to know that, because it's one of the worst things that we do at this club is go into a new season, much like we did this year, and we don't have a steady backline at all for the first 2 months. And it's a pain in the ass.
When you think back to the Champions League campaigns when Near Beaton was filmed in at centre half,
exactly.
It's incredible. We should.
That's how you end up with Scales and Phillips. Was the same situation, just disaster at the back that you end up makeshifting it. And again, I need to keep saying this: all credit and respect to Scales. He's done absolutely phenomenal for us this season, and you can't fault him. He's worked great. He reads the game well, but I just don't think he's going to take us up a level.
You sound like me talking about Palma.
Funnily enough, aye.
But again, taking it away from the game there, Ross, there's been a bit of background chatter in the backroom staff, so to speak. Hyeon-gyu has been linked with a move to one of Ange's former clubs in Japan, Yokohama Marinos, to take over from Kevin Muscat. He's left, and it looks like he's the front runner. And there's rumours going around that Scott Brown is apparently taking his position in the backroom setup. Would you be against Brownie coming back? I mean, again, not against, but do you think that would be a good move, bringing him back? Obviously, he's off the back of a year and a half at Fleetwood as manager. I mean, Hyeon-gyu was quite similar when he came in under Postecoglou. He was managing down there, didn't quite work out. Postecoglou gave him a break, and then Rodgers kept him on. Just first of all, on Hyeon-gyu and his impact, I mean, Maeda spoke about him. He had a big burn on his career. Abada spoke about him. I think for me, genuinely, I don't know what goes on behind the scenes, but clearly he's made a massive impact, and who they get in to replace him is just as key.
Yeah, I don't know him, but I know that a lot of the players like him and have a great connection. Well, he's got football in mind. He was a great player, cool, So I think Brownie I admire a lot. I know Scott well, and it's like I think he's actually got a very good footballing brain. He knows the club. I know some people go, it shouldn't just be about if you know the club, but there is something to that, that does have a little bit of an impact. I can see it. I know him and Rodgers got on extremely well. He knows Cal Mack. Cal sort of grew up with him, and Tierney used to look up to Brownie, and like all the younger players were really into what he had to offer. So if that were to transpire, I'd be happy with it.
Yeah. I think if I look at it, I'm always afraid of, do you ever get, for example, you're in a workplace, hopefully, and a manager replaces a manager, so to speak, but they stay on as staff, and you're the new head honcho. I always get that feeling with Cal McGregor and Scott Brown. I love Scott Brown and what he's done, but it's like he's coming back in with McGregor feel a bit, I mean, you're a coach now, I'm the captain. Do I think that goes on in that kind of environment?
I think it could happen.
Sorry, jump in, but the captain's a captain. It's like, I don't think those paths actually cross as much as
I think there could be some sort of kind of dynamic, almost like that kind of way where some workplaces you got the older heads, but the manager's about 20 years younger than them. There's sometimes that kind of power play, and I think that's on Cal McGregor to get that sorted in his head, because I don't think Brown's the sort of guy who would come in, because as Ross says, it's a different position. He's the captain of the club. He's not the manager. He's not a coach. It's completely different. But he needs to make sure he doesn't. Yeah, no to Brownie for me. I'm with San Fran overall, to be fair. And
are you with San Fran here?
Yeah, depending on how long we've got tonight, boys, we can have a good conversation about that.
You go ahead if you want. Go ahead.
I think. Well, we'll keep it on the Calmac Brown thing just now. I think it's on Calmac not to let that spoil his kind of pathway as a captain just now. He's obviously been doing a fantastic job for the last 2 years, 3 years now. I think Calmac is a well-deserved Celtic captain. He's one of the best we've had in our lifetime so far, well, especially the last 20-odd years. But he's not Scott Brown, and he shouldn't be fearful of Scott Brown coming back into the club as if it's somebody he has to, look up to or overshadow or anything weird like that. I think he just needs to get his head sorted and get on with it. And I generally think he will. I think I'm almost making up a situation that doesn't even exist, to be fair. As for Scott Brown coming back, Right, how long do we have?
I don't have long.
Ross,
Ross
doesn't have long.
I'll make it quick.
About a minute and a half.
Right. Okay. We'll go for 30 seconds. I do worry about the whole job with the boys thing that Celtic have going on, and it looks like we're really going back down that path. All respect to Harry Kuehl stepping up into the management line again. Fair play to him and all the rest of it. If our result is to bring Brownie back, I would be concerned about that, to be fair. If we gave Brown a youth position as soon as he retired, it would still have been an uneasy thing, but he'd done that position a couple of times, even as a player. He'd went into the youth setup a few times in his playing days, and he took a good interest in there. And I would be okay with that, but to put him straight in as a coach when he's tried being a manager, I think there's a weird dynamic going on there. Is it a job for the boys to help him out at the club? And then does he just get too comfortable here? And does he really deserve it? Or should he probably more likely still go off and learn his managerial trade? I think he did well, did he not, in his first kind of half year at Fleetwood? It was the second season that went off the boil a wee bit. There's something there with Brown that he could be a good manager. I don't think he should waste himself doing the kind of job for the boys thing.
Oh,
I've lost hearing of Stephen. Oh, there you are. There you are.
See, it's just Mike. It tells me it's on and it's off. It's a shambles. But I mean, to be fair with myself, I'm with you. I don't want Scott Brown back, and it's no disrespect to Brownie and what he's done. I think we need to take ourselves away from that comfortable environment where we're bringing in ex-players and maybe get in another coach who is up and coming from, I don't know, Europe maybe, and see what they can do. And you know, it's just one of these things outside the box, and maybe something come off that. You look at the likes of, again, go back to it, Salzburg, RB Leipzig, their assistants become managers and then they move on to massive clubs. So, I mean, these things can happen, and sometimes I think Celtic need to look at that type of model, but that's a thing for another day. Ross, I know you don't have much time, buddy, but Rugby Park next. Derek McInnes kind of does part-time Rangers punditry and part-time Kilmarnock management. We're on the way to the plastic pits again. The Killy Pies will be out in force. Well, I mean, how do you think the game's going to go, and then your score and line-up prediction?
We practice on a plastic pitch for a reason. So I think annoying as it is, I think it's just, look, they're always going to use that to their advantage. They're never going to turf it up. I'd be shocked if they do, because I think anyone that goes in there, they're going, listen, this is just an advantage to turn over a lot of people. We show up, we play our game, we should win it comfortably. I've no idea about a starting lineup. I mean, you know, I'll leave that to you two. But it's like, I won't even do a score prediction. We'll win. But, you know, if we show up...
No score, but you're not going to put your numbers to the mouth, though? Come on. Oh, fair enough. 18. Alfie, what about yourself?
I think we've always likely concede. But I think going on that plastic pitch, it's not as bad as it used to be. I think it's a psychological thing with fans more often than not. As Ross says, we practice on these pitches at Lennox Town often enough now. There's always a worry about injuries when you look at what's his name, the Simunovic, with his knee injury all the time on the plastic pitches. That's always going to be a concern for us. But I don't believe there's anybody in the squad just now who's got that kind of ongoing injury that could be kind of hazard. I think we'll concede. We tend to, but I can't see us not winning. I'll go with a 3-1 if you're going to make me pick a number.
Are you going to do a lineup prediction? Are you going to back out of it?
We'll start with Kyle. We'll start with Palma.
No. It's a bad move.
Sorry, man. No, right wing is anybody's guess. It could be Yang. It could be Johnston. It could be fuck knows who.
I think
yeah. I think he has to be sensible. I think he has to go with midfield 3 of what started it on Wednesday. I think if he doesn't go with that midfield 3, we're going to be struggling. But if he goes with that 3, I think we'll be fine.
No problem. No worries at all. And for me, I'll go 3-1. My lineup prediction would be Joe Hart, Alistair Johnson, Carter Vickers, Scales, Taylor, Iwata, McGregor, O'Reilly. I think Yang will come back in, up top, and Palma on the left. And as I said, they're 3-1. But that brings us to the end of the podcast. Have you enjoyed it?
I have. First one I've done with you guys, and I've actually really enjoyed it. Nice to meet you as well, Ross. Nice to come back.
Next time we'll make sure that we'll put out a nice little green thing behind us. I like it. I like your style.
Well, that or you see my dirty dishes.
Is that what it is? I was going to say, it looks like we're in his, I don't know, his broom cupboard. I don't know what's going
on. Who, me?
Yeah.
Mate, this is a kitchen, believe it or not. I'm broom covered. But have you enjoyed it, Ross? Good to have you back on as well, buddy.
It's always a pleasure. It's always a pleasure coming on. Thanks for the invites. I know you guys keep nudging me, and if I'm around, I'll do it. And today I was, so I was glad I was able to pop in.
Good man. And until Monday, everybody, stay well, keep safe. Hail, hail.
Hail, hail.